This is the classic survival style lean-to. This has been shown in all kinds of survival movies for decades and written about in survival field manuals for over a century now. They're easy to build, they're quick, and they're just so comfortable. So in this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to build this weatherproof, how to spend a night in the rain or snow in this if needed, step by step. Now let's talk about site selection and safety. We're in the forest, so that means look up, look down, look around. Make sure you're not under any standing dead trees, heavy leaning trees, heavy leaning dead trees. And remember, trees die from the top down. So really look up at the canopy and make sure you don't see any big, long, dead pieces, and make sure there's no dead branches hung up in these trees, ready to come down as soon as the wind starts hitting them, okay? We don't want to be in the creek bed, in the water bed. If we could be close to water, right? If we could be close to a little stream bed, right? That's great, but we don't want to be in the wash because of potential for flash flooding. And we want our backs into the wind here, okay? So for this lean-to, we want the wind to be going this way. And indeed, if I can pick a spot here, a little nook or cranny to build this that's out of the wind, that's even better. But just make sure that the wind is not blowing in the front. Now I have a place with a lot of dead and down here. And you're gonna see that's what the entire shelter is made out of. And you say, well, are you just a tree hugger? You don't want to cut plants? Well, in a survival situation, if I did have to cut living green, that's fine and that's legal. But look, it's always harder to cut green. And this isn't like lush rainforest with big giant fern leaves where one or two leaves will cover the whole shelter. Okay, these are small pine needles. This is a conifer forest. This green will not cover the shelter well. So it's always going to save time to use dead and down, to not have to cut, to be able to scoop this up right off the ground, rake up the pine needles with our feet, bust the logs between trees, not have a lot of tools. That's the true survival way. Saving energy, getting things done quickly in the event of an outdoor emergency. So that main beam, that cross beam, is going to be our strongest pole. That's one we have to be a little picky about. We want to use dead and down, but it also has to be strong. We don't want to go with too much weight either, or it's going to be real difficult to make. Something like this, not too rotten, anything like that, will be just fine. Look how straight that is. Okay, so I do have a great living saw, but we can bust these branches between a couple trees like this. All I would say is don't run into it, right? Nice and slow. That's leverage. Oh, friendly fire. Okay, so a little overlap like you see here will really help with the tying, with helping affix this to the post. So here we go. Here's our crossbar, our strongest beam. That's heavy. All right, let's get that beam lashed to the trees. I like to get that done first before I collect the rest of my pieces. Just get it out of the way. It's the hardest piece to find, the piece you have to be most selective about. Once I get it done, I can size the rest of my bars that I'm going to be using with that bar. So I'm going to be using just, pretty standard 550 cord for this, parachute cord. Just about any strong cordage will do. If you're more of a bank line guy or what have you, that'll do just fine. Okay, so if you're doing this alone, you're going to have to get a little creative. So just wedging my weight to hold this pole against the tree here. I'm just going to do one simple loop to hold it, and then I'll get the other side up. Then I'll start lashing it down really, really tight. So I'm just going to do a simple square knot here. So when we build this shelter, we're going to use the most simple form of lashing. When I say lashing, that means binding two objects together with cordage. We're going to use a basic wrap and frap. One piece of cordage wraps the two objects. The second piece of cordage cinches that wrap. Allow me to demonstrate. So first comes the wrap, see? spin around both objects. Now I'm going to use a very simple knot here, a square knot, but I'll always give it a third overhand. Let me show you what I mean. A square knot is just like your shoelaces. Look, see, I cross over with the right. I pick this one, right over left, a wrap. Okay, now it's over here, left over right. So what that means is the same end goes on top each time. And that is what a square knot looks like. Now I always give it a third wrap. If I did it wrong, if I did it out of order, it wasn't quite a square knot, it was what we call a granny knot. There's an old saying, 3 half hitches will hold the world. And some sailors will say 3 half hitches will hold the devil. So even if you did tie a perfect square knot, always give it that third overhand just to lock it down, make sure it can't loosen up on you. P-cord doesn't hold knots all that well. So just a little tip for me to use. So that's the wrap. So the wrap goes around both objects, right? Now the frap will only go around the cordage. There we go. So what this does, see, is it cinches the knot. Now I'm gonna do that square knot one more time, but I'm gonna give it an extra wrap here. Watch this. 1, 2. I've heard that called a surgeon's knot. Always wrench down as much as you can. Look at, see, now that binds the first wrap, and see, this binds the wrap, right? The frap tightens the wrap. Now, see, that didn't really back off. That extra go around created more friction. So now I'm going to give it the 2 and 3. Okay, and this is a basic way to combine 2 pieces with cordage, okay? A basic lashing. And this is how we're going to do all our shelters for survival. Okay, if I give you a very complicated knot, it's going to be difficult to remember in the long term if you're not practicing all the time. This one, you basically practice all the time, because just like your shoelaces, right? And if you get out here and you need it in an emergency and you're having trouble thinking or remembering, then you may tie a substandard knot by accident that comes out. Like I said, 3 half hitches will hold the world, so you're good to go. Now that the other side is secure with that loop, I can set this up here. Make sure it looks a little even. Now I can step back and sight this, make sure it's at the height I want, make sure it's not too slanted. If it's too slanted, the poles can slide down. The poles can slide down when they take on weight like water or snow. Okay, so this isn't to hold it, this is just to set it here to view it, see where it needs to be level, so I can wrap this, frap this, cinch it onto the tree. All right, sized up pretty good. This is big enough to work in, so if it's raining and I have to split wood to get dry firewood, I have something to work in. And I'll definitely, with my 45-degree angle or a little steeper, be able to crawl under this if it is raining and be good to go. Of course, in an emergency, just big enough to fit inside and get out of the rain. But I like a little room to work in, and these are great to make camping as well. You don't just have to use these in an emergency. These are so much fun to camp in, and having that little room to wiggle, work your pots and pans with your fire, it's great. I love these shelters. And look, if you're in a place like this with this much dead and down where you can make these so quickly, it's no big deal making it a little oversized. Of course, in an emergency, keep it small, keep it quick. Okay, so if you have some quality parachute cord, you may be able to get away with doing 1 wrap if your materials aren't too heavy, if your thatching isn't too heavy, something like a damp moss, if you're not going to take on too much snow or rain, maybe you're just making this for camping. However, I'd like to give it, just for safety, 2 or 3 wraps. I pulled off 3 wraps on this one here. I'm going to pull it as tight as I can, and now I'm just going to do a simple square knot to keep this together. Now I'm going to give it 3 just to be safe. Maybe I accidentally did a granny knot, right? Well, guess what? 3 half hitches will hold the world. Okay, so this is up pretty good, but this isn't all that I need to affix it to the tree. I'm gonna wrap it, okay, and then I'm gonna frap it. Okay, so now for the frap. This is going to go around just the rope here. Make sure you don't catch on, hook on any other branches. And with this, 1 wrap may hold, but if I can get 2 or 3 in there, it's going to be a lot better. Okay, with this one, heard this called a surgeon's knot. See, I'm doing 2 wraps there because I don't want it to release. Okay. There we go. And now 2 more half hitches to hold the world. Bang. So here is our wrap and our frap. We kept it really simple, right? Keep it really simple so you can remember how to tie this in an emergency. Now, if you want to leave one standing for quite some time, I would wrap this way, then I would wrap across this way, then I would frap after making the X, okay? So this is just for emergency use, but a couple, 3 wraps around there, 3 fraps around the middle, that's gonna hold just fine. Trust me, they teach people this all the time. We stay in these in Alaska all the time. This holds up really, really well. So this one, I'm gonna go ahead and do that X wrap there, and then I'll take that loop off there. I'll incorporate that into my frap. I can tie off with the same square knots. Again, 3 half hitches will hold the world. Always pull these as hard as you can. Now that I have this X wrap here, okay, when I frap, it's going to be even stronger. So if this is something I want to leave up on my property or camp in, or I just happen to have a good amount of P-cord and I'm stuck out here, I'm going to be stuck in the snow or whatever, this is going to make it really, really strong. Okay, so now we're going to frap again. And now again with our square knot 3 times. Okay, so here is our wrap and frap. Now I'm going to clear out the ground a little bit, just get some of the pokey stuff out of the way, and put my brush bed down, my ground insulation. No, I don't want any of these scraping my head or anything like that, or interfering with the building as I go. It's not the biggest deal, but they are easy to just pop off with a baton there. Just get a decent baton. So you don't need trash bags or tarps to carry all your needles. In an off-trail place like this, with all this deadened down, all I do is kind of walk in a circle here, and I get a huge amount of pine needles. And this will work the same way in the birch trees in Alaska, or the maples on the East Coast with the leaves on the ground. The more you can sink into your brush bed, okay, the more you can sink into your brush bed, the better, the warmer you're going to be. And here is my brush bed. You would not believe how comfortable a good brush bed is, especially pine needles. You think it's going to be pokey and stabby. Maybe if I was in shorts, you know, but we're up here in these chilly mountains, and this conforms to every part of your body. It's like a Posturepedic. They're just so dang comfortable. Now I'm just gonna put a little log here, help keep this brush bed together, and if I did have a campfire, help keep the brush bed from migrating into the campfire. Okay, now it's time to build the back wall. You'll see I did the brush bed first, so it's just a lot easier to place the material down without a whole back wall in your way. Okay, here are the main beams for our back wall. You'll see they're spaced about 18 inches apart or so, just under 2 feet. 18 inches is pretty good for me. These don't have to be right up against each other. The weight's going to be distributed amongst them pretty evenly. Okay, so just get some fairly solid pieces. They don't have to be as solid as the crossbar. Remember, we're using dead and down. And one thing to remember here, One thing to remember is keep this at a 45-degree angle or more steep. If we want to successfully shed rain and snow, this is going to make it a lot easier. And here they are from the other side. We are so ready to lean to. So look at this, 7 branches and some pine needles with this huge amount of dead and down here. This did not take long at all. So now what I have to do is add a bunch of little sticks, a bunch of forked branches, all here that will hold the debris that's going to be serving as my thatching and my waterproofing. You know, all the little stuff like this all over the ground, and the more forks the better. A lot of times the lower branches, the lower dead branches on the trees will have all these forks here, and this will hold up a lot of our pine needles, a lot of our debris for our shelter wall. All right, so we're just gonna crisscross all these branches any which way to get them to stay on. Just try not to have a bunch of stuff poking in like that, right? If you have to break a piece off, that's just fine. We're gonna add enough of this to support the pine needles and debris that we're gonna use for our thatching, okay? So it doesn't just fall through. So this stuff clumps together pretty well. So it doesn't have to be too tight, okay? But the better I do this, the less it's gonna fall through and waste my time. Okay, now that this is done, I'm going to go ahead and apply my thatching. I'm going to apply it in thick, tight bundles, 1 row at a time, across the entire bottom. Then I'm going to overlap by at least 30% and add another row, okay? We're going to go just like shingles on a roof with the overlap. Okay, so we have to go until we're light proof from the inside. That's how we'll know that we're rain proof, okay, that the rain won't punch through. And if you do it systematically like this, you're not going to have to spend as much time gathering needles. Just keep piling it on and piling it on. By not overlapping, not systematically, you're going to end up using more needles. It's just going to take more time and slow things down and be less waterproof. Okay, so remember, overlap. Now look at this massive bundle of needles I got just from this small area. We don't need big trash bags. Again, when you're off trail in the forest like this, there's no shortage of needles. Like you guys in Alaska, you're going to have plenty of birch in so many areas. You guys in the East Coast, you're going to have so much maple and things like that. We're going to use this same method. Now I want to get as many of these. Ah, there we go. Use. Okay, let's put these on. So again, start at the bottom. Keep it condensed, keep it tight. Okay. Don't spread this out or fluff it out to cover the biggest area. I need this dense. Okay, I need this dense so it's waterproof. So that's just one quick handful. I'm gonna go all the way across, keep overlapping till we're done. Okay, now that I have the bottom row on, I'm gonna place the next row on above it with a solid overlap, just like shingles on a roof. All right, now I'm on the second row. So I'm gonna get a nice bit of overlap there. Again, compact it, don't fluff it up and spread it out. And now we're getting a marvelous covering. Okay, just a little more to go now. Last rows. So we are going to add thatching until no light comes through from the inside. So see, I'm looking from the inside into the back wall. I'm going to look all up and down and make sure I don't see any specks of light coming through, okay? Once it's light proof, it's rain proof. Doesn't matter how thick the thatching is, it just matters that it's light proof, okay? So we add so it's light proof, and then we're waterproof. Now for managing the wind. So these needles, they're all compacted together and overlaid, so they're on there tight and they don't blow off so easily. But things like leaves and grasses and ferns will blow off much easier than this. Either way, if we're expecting pretty good winds, what we want to do is lay a pole like this, okay, just like the poles that we built the inside with. We want to lay these all the way across And indeed, whether it's going to be windy or not, this will hold it down so it doesn't let the rain and snow push things down and create open gaps. And it will definitely keep your thatching from blowing away. Again, things like ferns and leaves and grasses blow away so easy. So just 6 or 7 poles across the back, and this will stand up to, again, torrential winds. And here she is, all done. I don't know about you guys, but to me, something like this, it's just a thing of beauty. Listen to me huffing and puffing up here. I'm at about 8,000 feet, getting up and down, carrying these logs and these needles. Fitness is important for survival, okay? Know this. So if you've never had the pleasure of spending the night in a lean-to, well, you're just plain missing out. Oh, I can get way under here. Now, if you're expecting any rain or any serious rain, you want to make sure that you can get under this really, really good, at least a foot. So any little drops that hit around here, they don't get you. Now, a quick survival tip. No survival shelter is done until there is an accompanying emergency signal, especially if it's made from natural materials like this, okay? Flying over, this will be hard to see. From up the hill there, if someone's gritting out, this will be easy to walk by. So make sure, if you're constructing these for survival, if you really are stuck in here, you may need rescue, make sure that you add a signal as soon as safely possible. Now, I built this with 2 sturdy trees. I've lashed my main pole to these 2 sturdy trees. I know what you're thinking, what if I don't have that? What if I have some good dead and down? But none of these are the right size. Maybe they're just really, really big around, really well spaced, more old growth type forest. Well, that's okay. I'm going to show you how to make it with 2 tripods as well. Free standing. Now, if we don't have 2 perfect trees to tie it to, of course, we're going to have to build 2 tripods to hold up the main pole. So we're going to do that same wrap and frap we taught you in the beginning, okay? Now you'll see it's together pretty well, okay? And I have the fat sides of the branches on the bottom. Branches taper, right? They get skinnier as they go up. So now if this was a little loose, if it would slid down as it gets fatter and it would get tighter. And with the 3 half hitches or kind of a triple square knot or whatever, right? I know my knot isn't gonna come undone. Now I teach survival, so we did this with minimal cordage. If you want a permanent lean-to, you're gonna build something on your ranch or where you take scouts out, something like that, you're gonna wrap 3 to 5 times around the wrap and the frap for optimal strength. Okay, so this is a bit of a survival tripod. Again, we're using minimal lashing now. It may be hard for you to spread these out a bit if you did a really good wrap and frap, and that's okay, because an official tripod lash, there's an actual knot called a tripod lash, which would take so much more cordage in this, okay? What those do is help prevent the spread, okay? So if you have a good wrap and frap, it doesn't want to spread too easy, that's a bonus. So I have my bipod established, have it all spread out. I want to have 45 degrees or more steep, not more flat, more steep. 45 is kind of that magic angle, it holds the best. Now, I get my 3rd pole here. And the thing about a tripod is the more weight you add, okay, the more stable it becomes. So I have this at about a 45 or a little steeper. I have these at about a 45 and more steep. So this tripod, without tying the 3rd pole on, is actually ready to go, believe it or not. Now, if you have extra cordage from your wrap and frap, you can just put an overhand knot on there, but you really don't need to, okay? Now, all I'll do is rest one end on one tripod and one end on the other. So just like this, 2 tripods to hold your main beam instead of 2 trees. And again, it's a survival tripod, so it required minimal cordage, but it still held the full weight of a 210-pound out of breath from doing pull-ups man. Okay, halt. And remember, you don't have to tie on the third beam of the tripod, and you don't have to tie on the main beam of the lean-to, because this will hold. Okay, tripods are really good like this. Like you saw, it held my weight just fine. So you would think tripods take more lashing, but if you do a survival tripod like this, you'll use less cordage, much less than we used attaching to the tree. So there are some benefits to the two tripods. It's a little more work, but it is less cordage. Okay, to some of us, especially me, this is a bit of a work of art. I love this stuff, but however, we have to remember it's an honor and a privilege to be able to train and play in beautiful, wild places like this. Okay, so if you don't own this property, if you're out there on public lands using the dead and down, right? Just using the dead and down, not cutting any green foliage, right? Because we don't need that anyway. Make sure that you break it down, spread everything out, do your best to leave no trace, and respect the land.